Okay, so this is my review for The Clown Murders. This is my review for The Clown Murders, which came out in 1976. The Clown Murders is by far one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my entire life. I am serious about that. It's low quality, low budget, and the story makes no sense at all. The idea of the film is that a guy named Charlie is still in love with his ex, Allison, who has, of course, since married another man. On Halloween night, Allison and her husband are supposed to close on a property because her husband is like this. He's like this major landlord guy, and Anyway, they're supposed to close on a property at midnight of all times, and Charlie ends up kidnapping Allison at a Halloween party with some other guys while everyone is dressed as a clown. What was supposed to be a prank quickly becomes very creepy, and Allison's husband goes to the cops to look for her. The movie, though, makes very, very little sense and is very hard to follow. The main problem with the movie is that its story. The idea that Charlie, Allison's ex, would kidnap her as a prank so she couldn't close on a property on her she couldn't close a property with her husband at midnight makes no sense. There's so many things wrong with this idea. It's hard to even know where to start pointing out everything wrong with this. I mean, first of all, kidnapping someone as a prank is it's nonsensical. It's not even a prank. That's just a crime. That's just a crime, dude. You cannot kidnap people as a prank. Even worse, Charlie kidnaps his ex, of all people. And in the movie, he says that he knocked her out with chloroform so she wouldn't scream. That's a crime. That is a crime. This is so insane and creepy. I don't know if this was supposed to show how psychotic Charlie was, because on that end it worked. But something also tells me like that was supposed to be funny. Was this supposed to show how creepy it was, or was it supposed to be funny? Because to me, it just shows how creepy it was. In many ways, the film is humorous, just not in the ways it intended. I found myself laughing just at how stupid the concept of it was as a whole. I wondered, too, if this was some sort of Manson exploitation film in a way. The main character is named Charlie, and later in the film, one of these sex-crazed characters who, for whatever reason, is named Rosie, despite being a man, starts naming off women he found attractive. Many of the names were shared by women in the Manson family or those that were concerned with the Tate LaBianca case. I'm unsure if this was coincidental or not, but some of the names mentioned were Linda, Nancy, Sharon, Rosemary, and Brenda. I won't lie. I found that the actress who played Allison looked very similar to Sharon Tate. The movie released in 1976, so this was only 7 years after the murders, and actually around the time that the main three, I guess you would say, four, 1976, 1977 was when Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Leslie Van Houten, and Patricia Krenwinkel were coming up for parole for the first time. So I'm not sure if this is me being a bit too Manson-minded, but these were some coincidences that I felt important enough to point out. Anyway, though, I also found the idea, of course, of closing on a home or a property at midnight absurd. Who would do that? I know that this is obviously something for the sake of the plot, but it's just so stupid and unbelievable. My big contention against the film is how it runs for way too long. The film is 1 hour and 30 minutes when it could and should have ended at about the 40-minute mark. It should not have been over an hour. I watched the movie on Fossum, and which Fossum, great. I really like that website. But anyway, I found myself constantly checking the timer to see how close I was to the end. I was surprised when there was still an hour left. And so that means it was like 30 minutes into the movie. I was like, is this almost over? I was surprised that nothing really happened when that hour passed. I mean, it was just a bunch of nothing. In many ways, honestly, I found this film to be some sort of thinly disguised fetish. Allison is kidnapped by her ex, and he starts acting like he can treat her better than her husband could. It's implied that she may not be in love with him, but it's in this way that's like Stockholm syndrome. Allison is semi-open to Charlie's romantic advances, and in one scene, she asks if he wants to tie her up. I was like, okay, it's pretty clear to me what this is about. This is just a fetish. 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 This is a fetish. The actor who plays Charlie, interestingly, is Stephen Young. I think that's how you say it, Stephen. Who 3 years earlier was seen in the movie Soylent Green. This was a kind surprise, but I was more shocked to find out that the person who really shocked me being in this movie was none other than John Candy. When I saw John Candy's name in the opening credits, I was like, no, this has got to be some other guy. There's another guy, right? Like some other guy who just so happens to be named John Candy. But no, the John Candy was in this film. This was one of his first films. I believe it was John Candy's fourth film. And John Candy's character, Ollie, is very easily my favorite. He's supposed to be like the fat guy that's the butt of the joke, the comedic, relief, sort of. But in comparison to the rest of the cast, Ollie, John Candy, is the most normal and sane out of everyone, and that includes Allison. Ollie is seen constantly eating something and nearly always being made fun of for being fat or overweight by the character Rosie, which Rosie has no room to talk because Rosie is this sex-craved, balding man who always has to put Ollie down for whatever reason. He also believes that Ollie is a virgin because he's fat. Now, we don't know Ollie's sexual history, but I don't know why that would even matter in this movie anyway. In one scene, Rosie is squeezing a donut, acting like it's a vagina, and he's asking Ollie if he knew what that was. Ollie then proves himself to be the best character in the entire movie with this scene alone, where he looks at Rosie, because Rosie's like, you know what that is? You know what that is? And Ollie's like, that's a donut. That was my favorite moment in the film because it was such an easy and clever way to put down Rosie. Because at first you kind of think like, oh, Rosie's just kind of funny, like in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But Rosie quickly becomes annoying and gross. And you're like, I really cannot stand this dude. I also found it really funny, though, when Ollie pointed out that Rosie got mad when a girl he was talking to pointed out that Rosie was going bald. It was small moments like that that would genuinely make me laugh during the film because it was so funny when juxtaposed to this convoluted, terrible plot. The story ended up being all over the place because initially Charlie and the group of clowns he had to kidnap Allison took her to the house of one of the men in the group who was a lawyer named Peter. And I didn't write this down, but I just want to say real quick. At first, when the group shows up, it is intimidating because they're like this group of 3 or 4 clowns literally dressed up in clown makeup, clown costumes, and they're like dancing towards them. And that's creepy. If a group of clowns came dancing towards me, I would be scared. But they don't play on that. Granted, I think this was before a lot of people found clowns creepy. This movie came out before a certain famous clown was arrested for the murders he did. I wonder if John Wayne Gacy ever watched this movie. But anyway, so the group was going to take Allison. They took Allison to Peter's house, one of the group members, and they were going to stay there for a bit. But once they did this, it quickly became clear that things were getting weird. So Peter wants to let Allison go because he's like, okay, this is getting weird. Let her go home. But Rosie insists on keeping with Charlie's plan. Peter tries to leave his own property, but gets caught by Rosie, who is chasing him with like some sort of knife or machete. Rosie actually stabs Peter, but they stop when some old woman who appears after midnight with trick-or-treaters shows up. And she doesn't get the idea to fucking leave until she looks over and she sees that Peter's bleeding. She's like, Peter, are you alright? You're bleeding. And then it's like, oh, we were just playing. And she's like, oh. And she leaves and she never shows back up in the film. I mean, a completely pointless scene, actually. Pointless. After this, though, the group agreed to take Allison back to her own house and they hole up there. Before this, I didn't write this down either, but before this, they stop at a gas station because Charlie was too stupid to figure out, oh, we need to put gas in the car because they didn't have enough gas in the car. Is there enough gas in the car? No, there's not enough gas in the fucking car, so they stop at a gas station, which I'm not sure if this was Canada or just the 70s in general, but they had a gas station attendant filled up the car for them, and I'm like, what is this, fucking Oregon or what? But there's cops across from them in the parking lot, and Charlie, I guess trying to show bravado, goes up to show, like, oh, they're not going to get us or something like that. And they're like, what is he doing? Ah! So Charlie comes back, and of course he tells the group that the cops were like, yeah, this woman's been kidnapped. Watch out. It's a group of clowns, yada, yada. But this is also stupid. It was just kind of a pointless part of the film. What was the point of the gas station? What was the point of filling up the car? Because all you're doing is just showing, like, how convoluted this plot is. Why would you kidnap her and then take her back to her own house? I don't know. Anyway, what kind of prank is that? How is that a prank is what I'm asking here. Anyway, summaries of the movie say that an actual clown was stalking the group, but you barely see this. And there is, and this is at the property, at Allison's property. At one point, this clown stalker tries to bust into Allison's room, but disappears after she stabs him in the hand. And I guess from the movie poster, that's the hand you're supposed to see. Hopefully I'll remember to put that up on screen. But the movie poster is so stupid. It's this fucked up looking hand where one of the fingers are bent the wrong way, which you don't even see, technically. You just see the clown stalker's hand being stabbed. But it's a comical poster because it's so stupid. The clown stalker isn't even scary. He's not scary at all. At the end of the movie, it's implied that the stalker was actually one of like the country bumpkin Irish accent workers on the property. And I guess the guy really was British, but to me, I was like, why does this guy randomly have this Irish accent? Is that part of the plot? Because it felt like it was it was played up for the movie. And I don't understand why. What was the point of this dude having the accent for the movie? It did nothing. Anyway, the title, The Clown Murders, is hilarious, but very misleading. No one dies until the end of the film, and ironically, it's the kidnappers themselves. Rosie he's choked out by the clown stalker, but he doesn't die. Even though when he's choked out by the clown stalker, they film it and his eyes roll back like he died. But then he shows up later still alive. Instead, Rosie actually dies because he's shot by John Candy's character, who, once he shoots them, it is so funny because he starts squealing once he realizes what he's done. I found it hilarious because John Candy screamed, "I And I was like, John Candy made the film worth watching. I'll say that much. In many ways, he was the only reason why I finished the film. The only person the clown stalker actually kills is Peter, the lawyer, because the clown stalker shoots him from like outside or from inside the house. What was extremely strange to me is how Allison, the woman kidnapped in the movie, decides to have sex with Ollie, John Candy's character. There is just nothing that prompts this at all. Allison has virtually no interaction with Ollie before this, with the exception of early in the film, and it's only just a couple of sentences of dialogue at the most. Ollie and Allison have these few lines, but it's never implied that there's romantic feelings she has for him at all. And I know you don't always have to be romantic with someone to have sex with them, but for the sake of the movie, this just comes out of nowhere. Nowhere. What's also strange to me is that she had sex with Ollie, but not Charlie, her ex, who was there on the property. In the scenes before this, it is implied that Allison was still potentially in love or still had feelings for Charlie. It was kind of implied like, it just didn't work out. It didn't work out, so we broke up. But it's like that young love hope of maybe if we just tried harder. And it's like, no, girl, Charlie is fucking sick in the head. Okay? Once again, various plot lines just don't make sense in the movie. Why would they have Allison have sex with Ollie, but not Charlie? What also doesn't make sense is that when Allison was initially kidnapped, she was with her husband, who looked like he was stabbed in the back by Rosie. I thought that he was supposed to be dead, and I thought that's what they meant by clown murders. Oh, it's a joke that went too far, but no. Later in the movie, her husband was just knocked out, and then he wakes up and goes to the police. The detective he talks to about finding his wife is practically useless, not even seeming to comprehend that something was wrong. But what I don't understand is that Allison's husband is wondering where she went, claiming that she's missing, but he never goes home. Why doesn't he just go home? I don't understand that. If he went to his own house, he would have found his wife there. The movie ends with the cops showing up the next day, seeing Allison at her house outside with two of the other men, the one still living, Ollie and Charlie. Ollie is wrapped up in a blanket, looking traumatized, and Charlie is sitting by himself, tying what looked like a noose. The cops show up, and Charlie just ends up sitting in the police car, knowing that he did wrong. Allison's husband checks on her, and she says nothing. He tells the police to give her space. That's my wife. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. And the camera zooms in on her face, like as if she doesn't want to be with him. I don't really know. I'm not sure if it's supposed to show that, like, maybe she knows too much. It doesn't make sense. I couldn't help but wonder, was her character gonna tell her husband that she cheated on him with the fat boy eating our donuts in the kitchen? Would she have told her husband she cheated on him with Ollie? I don't know. That's never implied or discussed. What I also don't understand either is how... what this film was... And I'm not trying to be like an annoying uber feminist with this, but we have to be real when it's like this movie was so obviously written by a man, and Allison's character is written by a man. Like, it doesn't, because it's like not seeing things from a woman's perspective, or really just a normal person's perspective. You don't have to be a man or a woman. Just, it doesn't matter if you're a man or woman. You could just be a normal person and realize Allison should have been scared out of her fucking mind, but she wasn't. Who would not be scared, especially as a woman? If any of my exes fucking kidnapped me, I would be fucking scared, and she's not. And that's another thing that doesn't make sense. Why wasn't Allison afraid in any capacity? Because she wasn't, and that's what makes this film also bad. It's stupid and unrealistic. Looking through the newspaper archives, surprisingly, there were some reviews about it, though of course they were not good. One article stated that it was a crummy movie playing to empty theaters. Nobody's watching that shit. Another review called it harmless and forgettable. And strangely, one review, I think this person must have been paid. I really do. Because one article claimed that they thought the movie was good, but of course, I'm unsure how genuine such a review even was. Other reviews virtually talk about how bad the movie was. But thankfully, I was not the only person to feel the way I do, because when this movie initially came out, other people talked about how terrible the dialogue was. Because it was. It was just stupid, you know? Truly, I cannot recommend this film as bad as it is. It's not even like fun bad, it's just bad. Now, John Candy provides some laughs, but the movie is too long. That's my main reason why. Like, tell people, don't even bother watching this one, because it's too long and nothing really happens. With nothing really happening, I wouldn't waste my time watching this. If you want to see like early John Candy, that's the only reason I can understand this. But from a horror or even comedy point of view, don't waste your time. So I give this one about 1 star and wait, hold up. And 2 slimes. 2 slimes for this movie.